We've learned a lot more and got a much more complete picture than we would have been able to do if we'd have worked independently about the migrations of swifts from Europe.
Imagine spending almost an entire year in the sky, never settling on a branch, never landing in a field, just wings beating over deserts, cities, and oceans.
They've got a really unusual lifestyle that can spend 10 months on the wing.
For the common swift, that is not fantasy, that is ordinary life. A bird that refuses to land. When most of us picture a bird, we imagine something perching on a wire, hopping on the ground, or sitting in a tree. Even strong migrants like geese and cranes spend much of their time resting. The common swift lives by a different rule. Once it leaves its nest, it treats the earth as something to fly over, not somewhere to stand. From late summer to the start of the next breeding season, common swifts can remain in the air for about 10 months at a stretch. Tiny recording devices attached by scientists at Lund University have shown that some individuals spend more than 99% of that time airborne, and a few never touch land at all between departure and return. They feed, they drink, they chase one another, they cross continents, all without landing. To watch a swift is to see a life compressed into motion. It sweeps across the sky in a sickle of dark wings, calls once, twists, and is gone. By the time you lower your eyes, it may already be a kilometer away. The common swift. The star of this story is not a giant eagle or an albatross with a vast wingspan. It is a bird barely 17 centimeters long, weighing roughly 40 grams, about as much as a small chocolate bar. Its plumage is a soot-brown cloak that looks almost black against the sky, with a pale patch on the throat. From a distance, it can be mistaken for a swallow, but the shape gives it away. The wings are long and sickle-shaped, the tail short, the body drawn out like an arrow. Every part of the common swift's body is tuned to flight. The wings are narrow and stiff, ideal for fast, energy-efficient gliding. The bones are light and strong. The feet are tiny, with all 4 toes pointing forward, designed not for walking, but for clinging to vertical surfaces like cliffs and walls. On the ground, a swift looks awkward and vulnerable. In the air, it becomes a different animal entirely. During the northern summer, these birds nest in crevices in old buildings, under roof tiles, or in natural rock holes. For a few brief weeks, they accept the limits of solid surfaces, feeding their chicks with mouthfuls of insects. As soon as the young can fly, the families vanish into the upper air. The breeding colony that screamed over a city street in July can dissolve almost overnight, as thousands of swifts slip south toward Africa. Staying in the air for 10 months. It sounds impossible. 10 months of almost continuous flight. For decades, biologists suspected that swifts might pull off such a feat, but they had no way to prove it. That changed when researchers like Anders Hedenstrom and his team began fitting common swifts with tiny backpacks, combining light sensors and accelerometers, small enough not to interfere with normal flight. The data they recovered were astonishing. The devices showed that swifts leaving breeding sites in Scandinavia in late summer would not return to a solid surface until the following spring. During that entire time, they remained in motion, shifting between active flapping and long glides. When a bird did land, the pause was brief, often less than an hour, and extremely rare. The secret lies in how efficiently a swift uses air. Instead of fighting every gust, it uses rising currents and favorable winds to carry its body forward, while its muscles work at a sustainable rhythm. In calm air, it beats its wings rapidly, but never in a frantic way. In good conditions, it can cover vast distances while barely appearing to work. Metabolism is another part of the equation. Swifts burn energy quickly, but they constantly replace it by feeding on the wing. Their hearts and lungs are adapted to high-output endurance, yet their bodies remain light enough to ride small changes in airflow. Over the course of a year, including all the loops and detours of migration, a single swift may travel tens of thousands of kilometers, circling a large part of the globe with a body no heavier than a handful of coins. A year wrapped around a continent. To understand what that means, follow one bird through a year of its life. Our swift hatches in a nest tucked beneath the tiles of a building in a northern European town. For weeks it knows only darkness and the feel of its parents arriving with food. Each visit brings a pressed pellet of insects, hundreds of tiny wings and legs glued together with saliva. Those pellets build muscle and feather, preparing the chick for a world it has never seen. One evening, the adults stop returning. Hunger and instinct drive the young swift to the edge, and it drops into the air. That first fall is also its first flight. Almost immediately, it joins other young birds, and together they climb higher, circling the town once, then twice, then setting a course south. Their path will take them over mountains and the Mediterranean Sea, then across the Sahara. They rarely fly low enough for human eyes to notice them. Radar studies and tracking data show that swifts often travel at altitudes of 1 to 2 kilometers, sometimes higher. At dawn and dusk, they climb even more, tracing slow spirals upward before gliding down again, a daily vertical journey layered over the horizontal sweep of migration. By autumn, our swift reaches the warm, insect-rich air above Central Africa. Here it will spend the northern winter, roaming over forest, savanna, and wetlands, never confined to a single patch of ground. Months later, when the tilt of the earth and the pull of instinct align, it will turn north again, threading its way back to the same region where it hatched, often to the same city, sometimes even the same building. Eating, drinking, and sleeping on the wing. Living in the sky only works if every basic need can be met without landing. The common swift has solved that challenge in ways that almost defy belief. Food comes first. Swifts hunt what ornithologists call aerial plankton, the clouds of flying insects and wind-borne spiders that drift high above us. They sweep through these invisible swarms with their mouths wide open, like a net. Hairs along the edges of the gape help funnel prey inside. Over a few hours, a single bird can capture thousands of insects, from tiny flies to small moths. When feeding chicks, adults gather these insects into a compact ball in the throat, sometimes containing several hundred individual prey items, and carry it back to the nest. Water is taken in flight as well. Swifts skim low over lakes and rivers, briefly touching the surface with their lower bill to scoop up a film of water before rising again. Bathing happens the same way, with a shallow dip that wets the feathers, followed by vigorous shaking during flight. Sleep is the most mysterious part of this airborne lifestyle. Researchers studying related species and analyzing swift flight patterns believe that common swifts use a form of unihemispheric sleep, where one half of the brain dozes while the other remains alert enough to maintain control. The daily dawn and dusk climbs to high altitude may be part of this routine. At these heights, the air is smoother and there are fewer obstacles. A swift can glide for long stretches with minimal corrections, taking tiny episodes of rest without surrendering to full unconsciousness. We do not yet have direct brain recordings to confirm this, but the behavior fits what is known from other long-distance flyers. Even mating can happen on the wing. Observers have recorded pairs of swifts engaging in brief high-speed coupling flights, separating again almost instantly. For an animal that spends so little time on solid surfaces, even reproduction obeys the rules of the sky. Danger above and below. A life in the air does not mean a life without danger. Every kilometer our swift travels carries risk. Over the Sahara, sandstorms can whip up with little warning, turning the air into a turbulent maze. Thunderstorms tower over tropical forests, with updrafts and downdrafts that can fling a small bird hundreds of meters off course. Strong headwinds drain energy and stretch migration schedules. Predators wait as well. Falcons and hobbies specialize in catching other birds in midair. A swift's best defense is speed and agility. It can twist and climb so abruptly that a pursuing raptor overshoots. Group flight helps too. In a swarm of dark bodies, the chances of any one bird being taken drop slightly, although never to zero. Then there are the threats we create. Swifts depend on healthy populations of flying insects. Pesticides and habitat loss have reduced those insects in many regions, turning parts of the sky into biological deserts. In towns and cities, renovation and modern building methods often seal off the cracks and cavities where swifts once nested. Light pollution can confuse migrating birds at night, drawing them toward illuminated structures where collisions become more likely. For now, common swifts as a species are still relatively widespread, but in several countries their numbers have declined. The bird that seems to belong to the open sky is, in reality, closely tied to decisions made on the ground. Why this tiny bird matters to us. Beyond its athletic feats, the common swift plays a quiet but important role in our world. By consuming vast quantities of insects, it helps keep certain pest populations in check. Farmers and city residents alike benefit from skies that contain more swifts and fewer biting flies. Scientists also use migratory species like the swift as living indicators of climate and environmental change. When spring warms earlier, swifts may adjust the timing of their arrival. When rainfall patterns in Africa shift, their winter movements change. By tracking these responses over decades, researchers gain clues about how ecosystems across continents are responding to a changing planet. There is a cultural weight too. In many European towns, the first scream of swifts overhead is treated as a sign that summer has truly begun. When those calls fall silent earlier than they used to, people notice, even if they cannot say exactly why it feels wrong. So what is the secret behind a bird's ability to spend months and perhaps tens of thousands of kilometers in the air without touching the ground? It is not a single trick or hidden organ. It is a whole way of being. If this story has changed the way you think about birds and about the sky over your head, let me know in the comments. Would you trade our grounded lives for 10 months of flight? And if you want more true stories like this one, full of real science and wild lives, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and click the bell so you do not miss what comes next.